cut that way back.
They're sharing that one, that with, the,
I haven't been home since
who are they sharing that with?
7:20 to go to work this morning.
And they only invited.
Me.
Then
Well,
you-
not going, I told my.
How you doing, Ed? Good.
I've got an airplane.
So you like your new computer? Getting used to it now?
It's way nicer than I need for anything,
Yeah.
but I mean, I do like the tablet feature.
Yeah.
Break the top off.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
You guys should work tonight, right?
Yes, yeah. We have, like, we had.
Hearing a
we
theme?
had
All right, it is 6:30. We will call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Mr. Armisen?
Here.
Mr. Hazelhurst?
Here.
Mr. Haverly? Mr. Kinzer?
Here.
Mrs. Maxey?
Here.
Mr. Moon?
Here.
Mr. Mulholland?
Here. Right. We are moving on to an approval of the agenda. Do we have any amendments or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approved. We'll move on to audience to visitors. We have William Randall about levy, fund balances, and spending.
William Randall, taxpayer, also work for the district, substitute custodian. I looked over the levy that you guys are gonna look at later today and how it affects me personally. Being that I just wanted to put it in terms that somebody can relate to. In 2016, the amount, how it affected me was I had to work 464 hours for the district cleaning at the high school in order to pay just the portion of my taxes that comes straight back to Northwood. In 2017, I had to work 476 hours to pay just the school's portion of my tax bill. Now, with the proposed levy for next year, I will be having to work 490 hours for an additional 26 over last year, which equates to 12.27 weeks. So I guess I'm running out of weeks in the summer to work to make my tax bill. I know you guys like to relate everything to the $100,000 house, so I'll put it in terms of that. That's 230 hours cleaning as a substitute custodian in the summer for that $100,000 household to pay his Northwood tax bill. So just wanted to put that in terms that maybe is relatable, at least it's relatable to me, because that's kind of how I like, okay, I'll work at the school, try and break even, but I really can't break even because your summers are too short now. Can you play my video? And no audio.
Pardon?
No audio.
Probably only off the speakers of the computer, sorry.
I could summarize what the video said. I believe it was the fund balances are built off the backs of the taxpayer. It's a privilege to work in a district with all this money. How do we spend all this money we have? Do we give it back? I don't think so. Let me see, there was a couple more, but it was like at least 5 examples that were infuriating to somebody like me who watches that. And it's like too much money, too much money, too much money. Yet the levies, great job working on the levies. I mean, ballooning them up so you can grab every speck of money available. It's just infuriating. So that's all I have. I'll take my jump drive back since it didn't do you much good.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, no further. We'll move on to the treasurer's report.
As presented,
Yeah, as
if
presented.
anybody has any questions?
All right, then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Good. We just got back from the Golden Apple nomination reception where we had 27 teachers that were nominated for the Golden Apple. It was at Giovanni's tonight. They welcome them, congratulate them for being nominated, and then tonight they encourage them towards working towards the Golden Apple Award. So that's where myself and my 3 elementary principals just came from, so it was a very nice night. Also, too, I wanted to say that November is Board Appreciation Month. We bought you Fannie Mae candy that is at your spot tonight for all members as a token of our appreciation, and I know I personally want to thank each and every one of you for your time and dedication to the North Boone School District. So thank you guys very much. This weekend is our board conference in downtown Chicago. Kelly has given you a folder with your registration information, invitations, with conference details. Any extra expenses, she gave you some forms and stuff for you guys to be able to easily take care of those. So looking forward to it. Should be a great time this weekend, and when we get back, we'll work to get all those finalized. Still looking to confirm a date for our board workshop. The last one I got was the week of the 8th through the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th of, I think it's 8th through the 10th of January. Do you guys have a preference? The two nights that I had looked at, 9th is a Tuesday, 10th is a Wednesday. It would kind of stay with our board pattern of Tuesday nights. How do calendars look? And looking to confirm a date with Laura Martinez.
The 9th through the 11th?
Yes, the weekend of the January 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Right now,
Ninth would
any
be
of
better
those
for
days
me.
are fine for me.
9th would be better. Any are okay for you, Mary?
Yeah.
Tom?
Right now.
Oh, any of them? Should we go ahead and keep with the 9th then for a Tuesday night pattern? Does that work? Okay. So I will make sure that Laura has that. Joe wanted to discuss more in detail the topics. So I'm not sure, is there any direction you want to go? Do you want me to bring that back for December? I can bring that back in December and we can discuss more when Joe gets back. We'll do that.
Yeah, I'll bring back Joe here.
Okay. And I printed up an updated copy of your board and superintendent goals, placed it in your folder. There was also a thing that I know Joe wanted to talk about there. If there's any discussion, we can talk about that there. Otherwise, I can make sure that we bring that item that Joe wanted to talk about there back in December as well. So, and then the last one was I need to set a curriculum meeting so we can talk about the course guide. That's another Joe item, so it's busy Joe night. I will work with Joe on all those items if that's okay. And then that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the committee reports. Policy.
We had a meeting and we approved just a few housekeeping items going along with press.
Okay.
We don't have any on schedule yet, so we don't have any new stuff.
All righty.
In packet tonight for first reading.
Okay. Business services?
Business Services hasn't met since the last time that we got together. However, I would like to request that we have another business services meeting before the tax levies get published. Those are discussions that we can have when those items come up on the agenda. I think that in lieu of some of the conversations that came out from last month's meeting, there's probably some direction of some options that we're going to want Julia to look at before I think that we should approve moving forward with the levy.
I was thinking about the week of the 4th through the 8th of December. Does that week work for you, Ed?
I'll be in Orlando, Florida, if that should work for you.
Can't be later because it goes in the paper on the 10th.
I was thinking we probably need to try and get them before the end of the month.
Okay, so maybe the last week of November here, because we do have a week, I think, before we, okay.
27th through the 1st.
What's the, do you have a preference in there, Ed? Tuesday, Wednesday night,
Tuesday's probably the
best?
Tom, does that work for you?
I would have the Tuesday and Wednesday of that week are 12s for me, so I would have to try
I
to,
can make Monday night work if that works.
If
for
a
you.
Monday night works?
Monday night would be better. Monday I'm off.
What's my date on that?
27th.
I guess I'd encourage everybody to think about those discussions when we get to the levy. Hopefully, we might need to have everybody there so we can give Julie a clear direction of where we want her to go after that meeting.
Okay. Business meeting, 6:30, November 27th. We'll put that. Ian?
What time, Mike?
6, do you want 6 or 6:30?
6:30, please.
6:30, please? Yep, no problem. Works fine for me.
All right, then we'll move on to facilities.
We didn't meet, we probably won't meet till after the holidays to start figuring out some of the projects.
Okay. And then curriculum, your schedule.
Curriculum, I need to set up a meeting, and I'll work with Joe, because I don't know if Mondays work for him. But typically, we go after school on one of those, so we won't
We do.
necessarily need to be butted up, but I'll let him know of the 27th date if we want to butt them both together.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we're done with committee reports. We'll move on to item 8, the consent agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Mulholland, next. Roll call.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Hazelworth?
Yes.
Mr. Kinzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Maxey?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulholland?
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll skip over item 9 because we don't have any unfinished business. We'll move on to item 10, new business, November 2017 bills.
Mary?
Looked over the bills and everything seems to be in order, so I make a motion, we approve the November 2017 bills as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call.
Mr. Hazelworth?
Yes.
Mr. Kinzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Maxey?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulholland?
Yes.
Mr. Addison?
Yes. All right, we'll move on to item B, school improvement plans.
Yes, I have my 3 elementary principals here tonight to present plans. Did you guys play paper, scissors, rock to see who goes first, or should I go? Heather, you're first?
I can go first.
That's great. So, but no, they're here to talk about the school improvement plans and the data discussions they've been holding in their schools and directions that they're, directions that their buildings are working towards this year. So, go ahead, Heather.
Okay, for Poplar Grove, we do, 2 years ago, we started using the Rising Star template, which is a different template than the other elementary buildings and high school, middle school are using. It was through, we had done it as a committee. It's basically a 2-year school improvement goal. So after this year, we will go to the template that the other schools are using. So it does look a little bit different in terms of like scope and goal setting and that stuff. So if you want to like scroll down, I do have some of our data from the school report card from this school year, as well as some data from last year, looking at our overall growth throughout the year. We did see a little bit of decline in our 3rd grade ELA, but we did see a significant increase in our scores in terms of 4th grade ELA and math for last school year. And we've addressed some of those in our school improvement plan on how we want to see those scores increase. If you want to go to the next page, as you can see, as a school, Poplar Grove is performing. We slightly went down 16-17, but compared to district numbers, Poplar Grove is performing well, as well as above the state averages. So I feel that we are making gains in that. We did go down a little bit, but we did have a new teacher and some adjustments in staff last school year as well. So as I said, I thought we're looking good in that regard. This is just the at a glance from the Illinois School Report Card website. You can view kind of showing where we're at academically, as well as the percentage of our students, whether it be low income EL students, those that are receiving special education support as well, that is in that plan as well. There's not really any issues. You can just scroll down. That's our plan does look different because with Rising Star, what we do as a committee is we go in and we rate our top priorities for extremely important, somewhat important, those sorts of things. And based on the results of those, the Rising Star creates what our priority indicators are, where we need to focus our action plans towards. So basically it indicates where we want to focus our efforts for the next school year. And like I said, this is a 2-year plan. So looking at leadership, we are focusing on working as grade level teams, meeting with me to discuss our curriculum. I know we had a change with our science this year, so we're constantly having those conversations. In each weekly memo, I announced student successes in the classroom, and then we did implement a pineapple chart, which is used to increase peer collaboration and observations. That does address some of the things as well, where they can go into classrooms and observe their peers and find things that they see of interest as well. In terms of professional development, again,
Was that a teacher idea, going into the observe?
that was an idea that I brought forth to the staff. It's been very successful, so they basically, it's posted in the staff lounge. They write down cool things or great things that they're going to be doing, showcasing.
Mhm.
they can go in, I go in and sub for the teachers while they're going into classrooms to observe and get some ideas from their peers. Because typically they don't have time to go in, so it gives them an opportunity to do those things. In terms of professional development, we try to make an effort to have each grade level attend at least one conference of interest per year. I had the staff complete a building level survey. Where would they like to see professional development geared towards our building? I know some of it is outlined in the district school staff institute days, but we do try to personalize it to the staff at Poplar Grove, especially since we have new teachers and we have veteran teachers that need different things. And then we focus our professional development on weaknesses in our math and our part. In terms of curriculum, we work together as instructional teams. This year has been nice that we've implemented time during our institute days to work as grade level teams. So you can scroll down with that. Especially for science this year has been great. I know that they'll need to be created those maps for social studies and our current ELA maps, which Molly and Cheryl are working, do need to be revised and updated as different things come forward. And our grade level teams are currently meeting this year via Teacher Institute days to discuss our curriculum and where we're at. In terms of instruction, some of our indicators are that, looking at our lesson planning, how are we aligning standards, how are we assessing our students, and looking at some of those different tools. Scroll down. This year we do have 2 third grade teachers looking at our park data. They are using departmentalized instruction this year for ELA and math, so all the third graders in the one room go to one teacher for ELA, they go to the other teacher for math. Our math teacher does have a master's degree in math, looking at some of our decreases in scores. This does provide a cost-neutral way to increase or upgrade our instruction, so we're looking at the data this year to see could that be implemented in other grades as well. Studies show if you are really invested or have a passion for a subject, you may make more of an impact or see more of that growth in the classroom, that value-added growth. So we're looking at our third grade students this year to see that impact that it makes. In terms of assessment, we continually meet to look at our assessment data. We are meeting this week for our data teams, for our second round of data teams, our data days, tomorrow through Friday. So we'll be looking at reading, math, and behavioral data this week. And go ahead.
And I'm kind of putting you on the spot
Yeah.
here. When you meet for your data days, is there any trends in focus that you hear them consistently talk about?
We're consistently seeing students that do receive EL support tend to perform a little bit lower than our non-EL peers, their non-EL peers. So we're looking at how we can best meet their needs as well. We do see some trends with our special education students and how we can best utilize those students. We've had quite a bit of turnover in special ed staff, so it's making sure we're meeting their needs and providing the best option instruction for them. So like I said, we are meeting tomorrow. We do have a data wall that we use to interactively move students around when they're making gains, if they need some RTI support, and then using those services as well to determine, do we need to look at special ed referrals and those sorts of things. So we are meeting this week to go over all of our data as well. In terms of family and community engagement, some of the key indicators are making sure that we form those home and school connections with our community and our key stakeholders. So this school year, if you'd like to scroll down, we do every school year, we offer a survey that parents fill out after school events, as well as one at the beginning of the year, looking for critiques and improvements. This year we're going to be looking at holding a mathematics night at a local business, possibly like a Pacemaker or even a Home Depot or Lowe's, that basically helps you through the use of community resources. It enriches the curriculum, promotes collaboration with those key stakeholders, as well as getting our students using what they're learning at school out in the community. And the kids are really excited about it. Every other month, I hold a coffee and conversation meeting. I am holding one next, the 27th, I believe. Yeah, on Monday the 27th, where parents come in, we sit down for an hour, they have coffee, we talk about the key issues going on at the school, what would they like to see improve, do they have any concerns, so we talk about those on a bi-monthly basis with the community. Those are just basic general goals on the key indicators that Rising Star pulled out. just basically saying that our school will be safe, welcoming, and conducive to learning. We will communicate with our parents regularly. We will continue to align and implement our school curriculum based on best practices, and our teachers will continue to improve in ELA and math by differentiating their instruction and meeting the needs of their learners. So those are just basic goals. And then in terms of our school discipline plan, we do use school-wide PBIS. I implemented the Eagle Eye program, which is our PBIS program, in which students can earn positive rewards for making positive choices. As a result, they get coupons. We have a school store once a month. They come and purchase items. We have assemblies every trimester where we reinforce those expectations, skits, relay races, different things. Mr. Greenlee has been in and seen some of them.
Very active.
Where the students, we practice those things. We do game shows. They can earn prizes and rewards as well. And we have other incentives through our PBIS programming, reward days, ice cream parties, etc.
Very impressed too with the teacher participation and helping put that together.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like I said, the kids really enjoy it. They get really excited, dance-offs and different things. So they really enjoy it. And it's been very successful. It has kept our discipline issues down. Students are highly motivated with the tickets to improve their behaviors. And I think it's been a great addition to the school. So, and that's the same thing we've been doing this is the third year now. So. And those are just really what our Eagle Eye program is, where they can earn tickets and rewards for their behavior, talking about minor incidents and such. Are there any questions?
I went with my questions until after the work was presented, if that's okay.
That's fine. Mhm.
Do you have any parent incentives?
Like,
An Eagle Eye program?
oh, no. Well, we do on our Facebook pages and Twitter, we encourage parent volunteers to come in, and they run the store. So it's all run by parent volunteers. We tie our PBIS into our PTO, so we offer things at our fun fairs and other PTO-based events. They fundraise. But the biggest thing really with the Eagle Eye is they run the store. So they volunteer, they come in, they run the store. The kids come through in their classes, they're buying items and such. I'm sure the parents would have lots of ideas on ways to provide incentives for them as well.
Any other questions? We'll come right down the line. Allison, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, mine looks a lot different. All right, well, that's fine. So our first goal is an academic goal. This is new. We changed up our math goal from last year, and we changed it because we did not see the growth that we wanted to see in our math. Plus, when you look at the data of our math scores for both Park and the MAPS, we were performing much lower than where we would like to see. So by implementing new guided math instructional strategies, students will improve their math understanding and skill acquisition, and as a result, 100% of students will meet or exceed projected yearly growth targets on the Math MAPS assessment based on MAPS yearly progress data. So what we were looking at is what does our instruction look like? Maybe it's our instruction that we need to change up, not necessarily the content, but how we're delivering it. So we had teachers attend professional development on guided math instruction. If you're not knowledgeable on guided math, instead of doing a whole group teacher standing in front, maybe walking up and down the rows or around to the tables, the teacher is meeting with maybe 3-4 children at a time, while the other students in the class are working at centers that are minds-on great activities that are encouraging the development of the current topic that the teacher is working with the students on. So that teacher has that ability to see right in the moment what students are or are not getting the concept for the day, are their skills building. So we went towards this guided math. So students will participate in small group instruction as well as math learning centers that encourage an increased depth of knowledge and skill acquisition. A big thing that I saw in the first 2 years at Capron was we had a lot of fluff. We had a lot of fun activities for the kids, that they might have been math-based, they might have been related to the story that they were reading, but it wasn't engaging them. So we're really working hard on increased depth. Teachers will collaborate to ensure students possess the skills necessary for success at the next grade level. We're really looking at our, not just horizontal, but really vertical. As you may know, Capron, I don't have a teacher teaching the same thing as anybody else in the building. I have a kindergarten, a first, a multi-age 1-2, a 2, a third, a multi-age 3-4, and a 4. I don't have any teachers teaching the same thing. So it's very important that we understand together what that horizontal and vertical articulation is going to look like. So, all right. Goal number 2, academic. We kept this the same. We have seen a lot of growth through our data days. The goal is the same as last year's. 100% of students will meet or exceed individual growth goals in reading on their Fontes and Pinnell reading assessment. And this is just students are improving their reading comprehension and their fluency will increase. So we provide frequent opportunities for students to think, talk, and write about reading, included in all the content areas. We promote reading both at home and at school through school-wide events, including family reading nights. Little plug here, this Thursday, family reading night at Capron, 6 p.m. You're welcome to come. We involve community members in the promotion of reading enjoyment. We have guest readers every Friday. If you have not been contacted by Shannon Harkness, let me know. If you would like to come read at our school, you are more than welcome. We have lots of volunteer opportunities for adults to come in and have students read to them. And we also started last year, we have a reading therapy dog. So this adorable little golden retriever comes in and our students get to read to the dog, and they absolutely love it. Goal number 3 is a non-academic goal, and this is really driven by conversations that we've had at board meetings, and also conversations at our staff meetings of the importance of involving parents and staff. So we are going to create an open and collaborative environment between parents and staff. And we really wanted to increase presence, parent presence, in our school building and at school events. So we have a volunteer initiative. We have more volunteers in our building this year than we've had in the past 2 years combined. We have annual community projects that we're working on. I do have a Boy Scout, again, that is going to do our baseball diamond. I'm pretty excited about it. Capron Family Socials, we kicked off the year with a hot dog day or evening, just inviting parents in, doing some projects with the kids, welcoming them for the school year. And our last goal is a non-academic goal, was to, and this is a revamped one, Capron, knock on wood, somewhere, we do not have discipline issues. We've got phenomenal kids. We have tremendously supportive parents. So we want to encourage those behaviors, but we were also seeing that we were pulling kids out of instructional time to do fluff. Again, have assemblies that the kids weren't taking anything from. So we redeveloped our PBIS programs in a manner that it was encouraging those positive behaviors, whether it's responsibility, cooperation, and created school-wide events during the school day where they really had meaningful experiences. So we have our PBIS lessons, one way to not have assemblies but get the message across, and also meet state standards for our 3rd and 4th graders in the audio-visual area is our 3rd and 4th grade students make videos which the younger kids get to watch. So they would much rather watch one of the older students at school than myself talk at them. So that's been very well received.
Did you get some of that through like teacher feedback when they were talking to kids?
Yes, and so,
It's interesting.
hmm?
I said that's interesting because I was wondering about how they got it, so I'm sure that they were hearing from kids.
Yep, yep. They kids like it. Also, the teachers like it. It's shared on the Google Drive. Teachers pull it up. It's like a 5-minute little video. They can choose what part of the day, because as we know, it's not always the perfect time for every single teacher in the day. So they could pick that time, whether it was during the snack time in the morning, or maybe it was in an afternoon. Instead of a read aloud, they watch the video. We have trait tickets we award the kids. We still have Student of the Month. Everybody likes to see their face on the board. We do have the Second Step program, which is the social workers across the district use Second Step. And then we implemented this year doing some program review and surveys. So every time we have a monthly event for the kids, the teachers are asking each other, what did you hear from the kids? How did you feel about this activity? We want to improve it because we don't want to waste time. We have so much improvement to make that we don't want to take kids out of instructional time. We want to use that instructional time to the fullest. So getting that review and surveys are very important. Questions?
Okay, Allison. Molly? You're up.
Okay, so our first academic goal, and actually I'll preface this, all of our goals, we set them last year in Manchester. Just we kind of set them as 2 year goals, knowing that we're going to try to get some up and running, but we wanted to keep them going kind of as that 2 year and refine them as we go this year. So they were set last fall and will culminate this spring. So the first one it's basically reading, looking at fluency and comprehension through active reading minutes, building wide. Some of the things that we're working on, and reason we came up with this goal was, I know when I came in Manchester, I was looking at some of our test scores that we're still lacking in reading, still some work to do. But our test scores weren't that high, I was using the PARCC scores. And so we thought, okay, what areas, what can we work on? Our team, SIP team, was considering doing a once per month year with all buddies. Let's drop everything and read. So we buddy older kids with the younger kids, let the little kids read to some of the older ones, the older ones read to the little kids. So they do that for about 25 minutes once a month. That's where we're looking to go. And so they all have that more reading time. And then I'm actually going to go a little, well, no, I won't. Then we looked at doing a competition between classes for the outside reading programs. One of the things we saw, and we know through talking in our reading, in our K-2 meetings, is that the kids that are taking the time to practice at home their reading, they grow much faster than the kids who don't. And so we do a lot of these outside competitions, like, look at those through Pizza Hut. We have one right now going through or just finished with the Ice Hogs. There's some other ones that we'll do for Six Flags going through Magic Waters. But why not incorporate that? So we're in competition between the classes, which class has the highest percent in each month of doing these outside reading programs. And the classes that each month, the one with the highest percent, they get to then have their due time reading intense in the gym. Just something a little extra, put that stuff up there, and then the class that has the highest percent for the entire year gets s'mores in their tents. Just kind of fun and extra. Also looking at, last year we had a therapy dog. We're looking at bringing one back in and call that sustained adult volunteer program. And we talked about during it last year, we knew it wasn't going to quite get up when we were gathering adults that would be able more at-risk students. They don't necessarily qualify for the intervention, so the reading teacher or the reading assistants, but we knew that they're still in that area where they really need more support. And so we're looking at starting that, having adult readers get a list of volunteers and parent adult readers with some of the at-risk kids to do some reading during the school day. Then, the next one was math scores. Again, we saw from Clark that we were lower, a lot lower. Like 36.8% of percent proficient of our third grade, and 42.9 of our fourth grade, and that was last year's. And we knew that third grade was lower than the district and the state has been reducing. So we've been working on math, and we're adding it into some of these different programs. But one of the things we started last year and continue this year is building-wide math problems. So every Monday I announce the winners of these math problems they do on each grade level class. And so those problems and the answer are announced on Monday morning. This year we used our math data from last year and looked at where as a building, what trends do we see in the building that we really need to support. And so Leslie and Shannon sat down and really dug through that data, and we saw that number in operations really was an area that Manchester overall struggled with. So we are focusing all of those math problems in the areas of number and operations. And then we have two other programs. Batter Up, we started it last year. We'll have full school participation this year. But it goes with the national math bee. And the students, they can at home or in class, they kind of do, and they do basically math problems, and it's like computational, so it's giving them some of that computation practice. And they start it in January, and then we'll finish at the end of April. And just to kind of culminate that, we did it last year. The kids play a football game. We do that totally tied in with our PBIS during that day, but so they have that time to celebrate. Hey, we did this math. We announced the top 3, and then last year I had some kids that were in the top 10 of the nation, so we announced those awards today. And then this year we're also adding in STOP to optimize math instruction, or STOP. Basically where the classes, again, like the reading, they're paired with a buddy on a different grade level, where they go and they play games with each other. But in 2 ways, because we know that when an older child works with a younger child and kind of can explain some of those processes and everything, they're actually getting more experience with math. They're getting a more solid grasp when they explain it to another. And that younger child is getting to hear the math from somebody else. So, we're working on that. Well, we continued our PBIS is our first non-academic one. This time from one of the things I found out, the data point I got from that was during my entrance interviews that I had with staff members, everybody said, we don't have, there's no consequences for some of these kids' behaviors, no such thing, we have to do all that. Like, well, we need to reactivate our PBIS program, so that was one of the first things we did. And we're continuing to kind of make it better. That's why I didn't want to just do this goal, because we're continuing to make it better. So we still do monthly rewards for overall good behavior with all of our students, and weekly drawings of about cat bucks, which the kids love. Because you hear the feet, they're allowed to come and buys. We do a trimester assembly, which is very popular as well, that we pair with a trimester assembly. It's like a big bobcat buck drawing, but we also will pair it with the other awards for the trimester, like for the defendants and things like that. Track winners this year, we're adding in little PBIS tags that we're kind of out there too, like for participation in different things. Like those kids that completed the one of the outside math programs. We are finishing revising our behavior matrix. And then we started check-in, check-out last year, which for kids that need help in relearning positive behaviors. We run the clipboard and then with each teacher looking at, okay, how was I doing this long time? Do I have good behaviors or something I really need to think about? Or do I need to start over next time, next hour because this one wasn't so hot? We also have adult and students mentoring relationships in the school, like that are adults that our teachers and our staff members have a little extra. We call them at risk, but we need a little extra, like to suit that relationship because maybe when they have home, maybe they don't care for us, but they might be there something. They just need something extra to just be a little. Found that to be very successful. We do continue that communication of behavior in our newsletters and office. I also try to communicate office managers time with that classrooms, teachers know what's going on. This year we implemented Manchester Manners Matter to try to teach some of these character traits. So it's done within a 2-week window. The teachers, one to two staff members a month create a lesson. We're doing it with the bulletin board in the front hallway, and we're working teaching some of those character traits. Last month was perseverance. This month it's caring. So I know our gym teacher really makes it a big thing of talking about perseverance with everything that he was doing throughout that month. And this month he's been doing our caring, and I know a lot of the other teachers are doing that too. Kids are next with Bobcat. That's when we show those traits as well. And then I already kind of talked about the PIS tags. And then the last one is creating an open and collaborative environment for parents. We have all of our teachers have their websites that they update on a monthly basis. We do a building newsletter. A lot of the teachers have started also doing a weekly newsletter for classrooms. We look at having 100% positive parent contact by all teaching staff. And that's really looking at doing that. Once again, parents don't need to just hear when John's doing that. He needs to do what he's doing from the teachers. This year, from some of the teachers, they said, especially our specialist teachers, we don't know the best way to get a hold of some of these parents. So staff thought, well, let's come up with a common communication form that we can have so that some of those other staff members can reference those from the classrooms. Because each classroom can do something different. Some would ask for what's the best number, what's the best way to contact you, and some of the staff members wouldn't. So this just kind of standardizes it for especially our specialists today on someone they can go to get that best way to contact those parents. And we also standardized our group forms so we can still keep that school-wide parent collaboration and communication from being there. Well, Mrs. Taylor did it this way, but Mrs. So-and-so does it this way. I can't, so questions?
So I guess I'll start out with the hard one first. Heather, you alluded to it, Allison made mention of it, and Mike's talked about it on different occasions. The idea that your school has the ability to have collaboration between grade level than the other two schools don't. I guess I'd like to hear from all three of you. Are we doing the right thing, the grade configuration system that we have in front of us today?
I would say where we struggle, we do our best to find collaboration time. Where we struggle, where other areas, school districts may not, is the fact that we share our special staff. So because we share the special staff, it does not provide an opportunity for, say at Poplar Grove, for the 3 grade level teachers to be in their classes to be in a special so they could have team time or that collaboration time on a daily basis. So that's where we struggle to find time for them to meet because we share the staff, we only can have 2 specials at one time. So I think that's where we struggle. So we try to find as many opportunities as we can within the school day, whether it be creatively myself going in and subbing so that they can meet, or having assemblies or having activities where the kids can come in and the teachers can then meet while other staff are supervising to provide those opportunities. I think having, at least at Poplar Grove, having 3 is a nice way for them to collaborate together and talk and, you know, share those ideas. What's working in your classroom? You know, what do you do here? And then they share those ideas. I think that helps us because we do have a larger population of students. But finding those times is difficult because we don't have like the middle school per se where there's a team time every day where they could meet. The team times is great because it provides that cohesive, like you're a family and you're all talking about the same 150 kids, you know, like what do you see in science that I don't see in math class, those kind of conversations. But I think any way we can find opportunities for them to meet would, you know, definitely improve communication, both vertically and as, you know, amongst the different buildings, grade levels, etc.
And I know, just to kind of add into that, I know my schedule this year when I built it, I kind of schedule it in such a way that when, on the days that we have that second special, so other things that, at Manchester, either I have like 2 different teachers, or something, they have someone that they have a common team time, 2 to 3 days a week, or a common time with another person that teaches their grade or some grade, 2 to 3 days a week. I've made, that's happened then for every teacher. So, like, first grade, I don't have a second first grade, but I have a 1-2. So the first grade would have common time with that 1-2 person. And later on in the day, that 1-2 person also has a common time with the second grade teacher. I've only one third grade, so I mean, it's just that person, so she has a common time with one of the fourth grade teachers. I will also say, I just know I had a curriculum review today where I met with the elementary teachers. And we were doing some of the science curriculum work and putting them into some curriculum, starting out our curriculum process with them. And I was talking about, they were, we really need to, we want us to make this whole decision for all of the district. No, we're doing the background work. You're going to get together with the rest of your team at either a collaboration day or an institute day and talk about what we have there and solidify. Like, oh, so we talk about the different collaboration days. They're like, we love having collaboration time. So they would talk to me about that they really, really appreciate that collaboration time, and hoping that they can have some of that in this work, some extra collaboration time. That's why I always pulling all teachers for having teachers for having that. They really, really appreciate that. Because it does help our district to be on the same page curricularly and to guarantee that. Also helps us in instruction big time too. Like, you know, yes, we have different grades sometimes in each building. Some classes we have a low class, and then maybe third grade here's a low class, or the 2 third grades over there, they're pretty good. They might be average or higher. But we can also say, even so that, what is working for you? What instruction tools are working for you that I can try in my classroom? So that's always the bonus behind the collaboration times. And I don't know if you're alluding to like our school structure. I know there's lots of big bonuses to having the school structures.
And I can speak to when I develop a schedule, just like Molly has done, I try, and I listed off my classes. If I've got someone teaching a similar grade level or the same grade level, I give them that common planning time. You know, if they have PE, then it's during the other person's art or music. But that's the only way I can do it. It is a little more creative on my end with the multiple multi-age classes. And, you know, I don't know if that's what you're alluding to, is the fact that we have buildings where there's 1 first grade, there's 1 second grade, if that's what you're talking, because it is difficult. My teachers would like more collaboration time, but then that also has we can't ask them to stay after school. that's the tough part. They do want more collaboration time. I try and build it into the schedule as much as possible. If they don't have a planning period, then I've got them in lunch together. I enjoy stepping into, especially my 3rd and 4th grade lunch, because they're talking over their lunch about what they're doing in their classroom and how this worked and how they're planning this. And so that's a nice thing to see. Not that their table is full of their curriculum and they're hammering through it, but those conversations are important too.
You guys would make excellent politicians.
I mean, we would love for more time. It's finding, you know, in the past we had,
It's not really, and that's not really where I was going with that whole thing. I guess, so in lieu of having the ability to collaborate between grade level, how else do you guys share each other's data at grade level back and forth? Can, and I don't know if they teach the same grade level, but can Crystal and Wanda look at where they're at with kids on a particular curriculum and see why maybe Wanda excels at this and why Crystal excels at that, and what it is about their teaching techniques that makes what they do better for the kids in their classroom?
And that is something that happens within our buildings.
But I'm talking about across the district, because in my view, you guys are all part of our school district. So I don't get all hung up on Cape Manchester, Grover doing individually, because it doesn't really matter that much to me. It really matters about the product that we put out at the end of 12 years that I get more focused in on.
And I think that'll come out of, as we have, like right now, we don't necessarily have common assessments except for the math across the grade levels. But to talk about different, like instructional strategies, you usually need to hone that down into like a unit. Whereas MAPS takes everything. Like when I said that we were focusing on number and operations, for kindergarten, that's a lot of their whole year. Maybe it has some geometry in there, but it doesn't focus it down into like one thing that you can have some good specific data on. That would come out of having some really common assessments across the district that are happen more regularly, so you can have those conversations more regularly.
Yeah, I think that's the concern that I have, is that we only get these snapshots at the end of the school year. So essentially, there's nothing that we can do about these numbers anymore. Those kids have moved to another grade level, and now another teacher and another set of staff members are in the process of trying to fix this while they do their own thing in their own classroom. It just seems to me that we really need to focus on trying to get some way that we can see across the district where everybody is, and do a better job of getting all the kids in the same place at the same time.
We are taking naps.
You'll get those.
Those are a bigger assessment.
You'll get those back in April.
No.
we get them within 24 hours, but yeah.
Not those ones.
Because you guys just now got the park stuff back. It's 18 months old.
Park is frustrating in that we get it back so late, but what we can do with Park is drill it down to see, like Molly was mentioning, it tells you where they were at, you know, in the different areas of math. So then that next year's teacher can take that information and plan their instruction. They use the data to drive their instruction. They can also, and I guess the beauty of our small school is we have small staffs that talk a lot with each other, and they can say, hey, did you see this when you were working with these same kids last year? What did you do? And they do have collegial conversations that way. I also, you know, I've experienced with my staff inviting other teachers to come into their classroom to do a lesson, you know, swapping back and forth. And that was pretty interesting for me to hear about. They asked me, hey, is it okay if we do this? And I said absolutely, because if you're the expert on this, of course I want the expert teaching those students that information. So we do use last year's data. It's nice to have it in the moment. We all do data days. I think Heather talked about her data days. You know, about every 6-8 weeks, depending on where it's fallen on the calendar. And teachers are benchmarking their kids we look at that live data and what's going on, and that they go through our RTI process of, you know, what are you doing in the classroom? What interventions have you tried? Do we need to have them see TME, or, you know, do they need to see that reading specialist? Do they need an extra TA in the room to maybe take that group aside in math to work on number sense? So our data days, that live information coming from what the teachers are using to assess in the classroom, we use that to drive our instruction as well.
And it's something we can provide at that January Institute Day, a session with the staff bringing the MAPS data from December and looking at it when
Yeah.
we're all together and saying, where are you at? You know, my students, here's their mean RIT score. Where are your students at? And, you know, what are you doing? And having those conversations, being we do have that in January, February as the follow-up to that, providing that opportunity. I know sometimes we tend to focus our Institute days on specific yearly things like math, like science, and we talk about PLCs and that, but maybe that's an opportunity when Melissa plans a schedule for February that we could bring in the data and look at that as grade level teams district-wide and discuss it and look at
Melissa and
what
my
we're seeing.
discussion's been all year about grade level collaboration, curriculum collaboration, and articulation. That's been our focus.
Mhm.
It's got to continue to be there.
Yeah, we're a couple of days away from hearing other highly successful school districts about how they are constantly using weekly and bi-weekly assessments to
Assessment.
modify curriculum and
But they
kids,
have
what
those
they're,
assessments, we haven't got those. They, you know, I'll say a
The
lot-
common assessments.
They don't have those common assessments, and I would say probably a lot, and I'm not gonna say.
Common assessments are
they're
more
probably
like the
bigger.
grade level tests.
They have more good staff, and you probably having bigger entities putting a lot of that stuff together. Not saying that we're small and we can't do that, we definitely can, but we're not there yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet.
And it's something where Molly and I can speak to it. Back, 2008, we went and were trained on common formative assessments. That was the goal of that superintendent at the time. Once that superintendent left and we got a new superintendent, it was no longer a priority. So then people were not implementing it. It was not, mandated. And so it kind of fell by the wayside. And that could have, at that time, got us to where some of those other districts are. But again, that change in superintendents, change kind of.
you're throwing Mike under the bus?
No, I'm not throwing Mike.
I was just thinking.
Mike was a principal at that
You're
time.
encouraging a change, yeah.
Same,
There were a
yeah.
couple others in between.
Yeah, there's two.
We've talked about continuity too, though. It makes a difference. It does. And when we're turning people over and restarting from ground zero, it's hard. And that's been one of our focuses, is about retention and moving. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you,
got a
guys.
couple here. I don't know if they're questions or more statements, but you got 26% from 3 to 4, you got 28% from 3 to 4 in subjects, and you got 17.7% from grade 3 to 4 in subjects at each one of your particular schools. How do you justify a number like that?
For third grade, I would say that's their first time
Yours
taking.
actually went up, Heather, so I guess I can't say much about that.
I would just speak
But-
to the third grade. That's their first time taking PARC. It's a 7-hour test. By the time they get it to at the end, they're burnt out. I mean, and then come fourth grade, you see the scores go up. Typically, that's their second time taking it. They're more prepared.
I would agree with that, but then you look at Molly's third grade, and they did much better than her fourth grade. So
And-
now I don't believe that.
So, and I'm gonna take that and do statistical reliability. So I had 36 kids in fourth grade last year, and she had
In fourth grade last year,
Mhm.
66.
66, okay. So you have double, well, maybe not double, 30 more kids, maybe 36 more. We also know that, and so we know that the more kids that you have taking something, the more reliable that statistic is. I'm not saying that because of that, why mine was so low. No. There were a few different factors that went into why. And I know that one was low. I will own that one. You know, that was a group of kids that has been low across the board, that has had intervention, and has struggled. There's also classification by factor. And I'm not one to usually use that excuse, but I don't know that class of kids. we have younger teachers teaching fourth grade as well. It makes a difference. Not that a younger teacher is a bad teacher, but sometimes we don't have a lot of, it depends on the instructional strategy. Some younger teachers come out of school, tons of instructional strategies that they go out. Sometimes they just really have their feet wet and need to understand things as they go. I'm looking that my fourth grade scores will be a lot better this year. But I know they dropped, and that was one of my big concerns, and I brought that up to my staff, and I'm like, look at what our fourth grade has done, and this is not, and I think this happened, was it the year before? No, because the year before, when they were third grade, they were lower than the district, and when they were fourth grade, they also, this is a trend for that class. No matter how much we talk, I mean, we've been targeting them, we've been giving them interventions, this is a trend in that class. I know that they're gonna see this fifth grade. It's a struggle, I guarantee that, I know that. Do we talk about ways that we need to change instruction? Yeah. But here again, and I think Mike brought it up earlier, turnover doesn't help us out at all. You know, I put a teacher in fourth grade last year because our numbers were low, but that was the first time that teacher had ever taught fourth grade. A big class, very, very difficult kids. It's hard to get, and I think I said this, I remember saying it last year. You know, it's hard to get much instruction done for the kids. So, now, I have a brand new fourth grade teacher in again this year. Changeover matters. So, I'm hoping our scores go up, but it doesn't. And we're focusing on instruction, and there is a reason in math, why we're looking at math. And I know part of that is for ELA scores too. Third grade had pretty good scores. We had a good third grade teacher has statistically had good scores for but she even had a year where the scores went up. We go down to instruction, we look at the trend of how those kids have gone through.
I think we look at them kids next year.
Exactly. And I know.
But just so you know, I mean, kind of, you have to get rid of 6 teachers to find a good one. Why did we see overall student performance drop from 15, 16, and 16, 17 in all 3 grades?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Yeah, that's when
Can't answer that.
when I sit here and look at it, I want to see the arrow going up a little bit each year, and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
The other piece that I looked at too was the state data. At the state data, I want to see it went up 1.5 points, maybe in ELA over the last few years. You look, the state data has shown that the average in math has dropped just a little bit too. So I want to know what's going on with the testing. So why is the state? Because everybody's busting their chops to move that arrow forward. But I'd agree with you, Tom. I want to know. I want to see growth each year. And
Even if it's a 0.5%.
even if it's a 0.5%, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see
But
that
if it
arrow
goes
moving up.
2%,
I don't want to. I don't want
then
to
you
go
need to get
backwards.
3% the next year just to get
Mhm.
back to where you were.
Right. That growth has got to be above average to close the gap. That's where it goes.
And I'm sure you want to hear from me as well. Looking at Capron's data, we have, as far as LEP, limited English proficient students, we have almost twice as many limited English proficient students in Capron than anyone else. We have 19.2% of our kids are LEP. And then you do have also our Hispanic students who, have passed out of the access, who are proficient in English, but they go home to families who speak only in Spanish, and that does impact them. As far as our low income, we have a higher number of low income students than anyone in the district as well. I have looked at that data. I've been going over it because initially I said to my staff, look, we can't make excuses. We can't say this is the problem. These are the kids we're going to get, and we need to focus on how we can help them learn. But on the other hand, you can't ignore the fact that almost 40% of our students are not proficient in English. So when they look at the part questions, the paragraph, the so long that they have to read, chances are they're not understanding what they're reading, so they're not going to be able to answer that math question correctly, let alone the reading, the English language arts questions. So they do struggle with that. So we've really worked on our academic language. Sarah Corpin is our ESL teacher. She's done a great job trying to help the teachers with, here's the academic language that's going to help them out. It'll help them understand math better. It'll help them understand your English language arts. But also our third graders that tested that beautiful 16 point, it was not good. That was our class that they were a kindergarten, first grade, multi-age, bilingual class. That is where they started out. And it was not a very successful year for them when they were in kindergarten, first grade. And moving up, we've had to catch these kids up every year. So when you look at our third grade versus our fourth grade, why is there such a discrepancy? I would say it's because those fourth graders had one more year with our teachers to help them improve in their English proficiency, to learn the academic language. I'm not satisfied with that 16.7 or 16.9%. I can't remember it. I'm trying to block it out of my mind. Not satisfied with it, and neither are my teachers. They don't like it. They don't want to see it. That's part of our guided reading, guided math. We've now gone to guided math because we know we're one-on-one. We can recognize right away, are they understanding this concept?
And I will say, we're utilizing map data, and I saw the second grade class, which is now the third grade class, is looking at very, very low math scores in the spring. And so working with the third grade teacher this year, who has been successfully very good at increasing scores, but we can add more instructional strategy to help focus their learning, and hopefully we'll see their math scores coming up pretty much better, and then hopefully that'll help their park scores not look super bad.
Another thing we talked about was stamina. It's a long time for a 7, an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old to sit for an hour straight. So we've talked, there's nothing we can do about park. That time is that time, but we know our maps, you can start and stop that test as much as you want. So as a staff, we talked about maybe we revamp our map schedule so we're only in that computer lab, or they're only sitting in front of that computer a max of 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. Because you get, until you finish, you finish. You can keep going back into that test. And also within their instruction. The Daily 5 and Cafe, which we use our ELA, they teach them stamina. And it's the craziest thing. They get out their books to read, and the teacher just observes. And they try not to make eye contact because they time it to see how long those kids can keep reading. And as soon as the first person breaks, then they note that time. And then the next day's goal, we try and increase it by another 10 seconds or another 30 seconds, or then it builds up to minutes. So we're trying to increase our kids' stamina as far as being able to read and attend to something. Because we know these tests, you're going to have to sit in front of a computer for 48 minutes, 60 minutes. And that's a lot to ask. I have trouble doing that myself.
75 minutes.
75 minutes.
That's the short one.
And I think most of our buildings, we looked at data last week with Mike, and our students are performing well above norm data in maps. So when we're looking at norm data, it's our students at Capron, at Manchester, at Poplar Grove for map testing are performing well above where other students their age are. It's just park data, which we've talked about. How much stock do we put into park, and with the 7-hour tests and that. So when we look at map scores, our kids are growing. They're making those growth gains versus, that attainment score that we're looking for on the park tests. We can look at them in the fall and then compare them in the spring, and they're making gains. They're growing. And like I said, they are above norm data. They are performing above their expected grade level, those expectations. It's just when we compare them to park scores, I guess it looks like they're not meeting those expectations. But looking at maps and NWEA, they are growing. They are making those gains. So we do celebrate those successes. in that, you know, being the fact that's a district level assessment that we use.
All right, move on to item C, the levy.
Alrighty, wait for Kelly to get that up. On the next page, this is the limiting rate calculation estimate that we get. I get this sometime in the summer. And in the fall, then I will get what was page 3 and 4, which are the assessor's estimate, updated assessor estimate. And so I get one for Boone County and I get one for Winnebago County. So I take those and I go back and adjust page 2. If you're going to go back to page 2 there. And I update the EAV and the new construction for the two of them. So the new EAV, estimated EAV is the 144, 286, 632, and the new property is 654, 161. So I go back through and make the changes, get the new limiting rate, and the limiting rate goes down because she had our new property up too high. The Winnebago County sent this out and they used last year's data. So that makes your limiting rate go down, which we're going to be able to levy less than what was originally put there. So our levy could go up to $227,323 more than it was last year. And going through, anybody have any questions on this page here? On how figuring the levy amount? So if we move on to, we'll move on to page 5. Page 5 is a worksheet that I get from the PMA, and I put last year's data in it, and I put this year's new assumptions. The new assumptions would be your consumer price index, and the new EAV, the new construction, and put the maximum rates in at the bottom in it, and last year's levy in it. By putting all that data in, then it creates the levy calculation on the next page. On the next page, the levy, it comes out with the same limiting rate that I came up with, the 6.2998%, which is down from previous year because of the EAV going up. And in the column in the middle, right past the black line, it says prorate extension base on prior year extension. It creates a levy for me. And then I can override it. I would override it for reasons of I need more money in like municipal retirement. We are at a deficit spending, so I want to put more money in the municipal retirement and the Social Security so we break even next year. I took more out of the transportation because in the previous years we've been transferring that to the O&M fund, so there's no reason to levy as much in the transportation fund. So then I would levy more in the O&M fund because that's where we need it. It's costing us more money to operate those 6-7 buildings than we are able to get in a levy. So I have to put more money in it, and the maximum I can put in is $1,082,000. So then the rest of them are kind of holding the same. So the ones I changed the most were Social Security, municipal, transportation, beefed up the O&M, and the difference I put in education. And I increased the levy up in case the last quarter of the EAV comes in and there's more new construction than they estimated, or they're changing some EAVs because people have, they argue their property taxes and they may change them. So until January, do I not know what the final EAV in new construction is. So that's a typical move, that you move that up to capture everything you're allowed to capture. So the final column is what the levy amount is I am recommending. Page 7, it all goes on to the certificate of tax levy. This is what is filed with the Winnebago and the Boone County. Exactly the same thing that were on the page before. And same with the page 8. That also, the truth of taxation is basically the same thing as the certificate of tax levy. So those are all signed by the board and put in. Page number 9 is the notice of proposed property tax. That is what's put in the paper. And I know at this time right now, we are in the middle of restructuring those bonds. So item number 3, where it talks about the property extended for the debt services, that is going to change. I talked with Andy and he says for now, when you have to present it, I would go with what you know. And before it's published in the paper, we'll have the accurate data and percentages of increase before it's put in the paper.
I think we'll have that, Julia, by the 27th when we meet.
I'm hoping they sell this week, I think. They sell the
At the end of
bonds this
I
week.
think.
Yeah, I think they sell the bonds this week. Being that it's a holiday and short days next week, hopefully they'll get that put together. I'll talk to Andy and make sure that we get it. And then the last form, page number 10, I wanted to put together a history of the EAV for you. I'm not sure if you've seen something like this recently. It gives the EAV, the new property, and your limiting rate and what the CPI has been for all the prior years. So, any questions on that?
It's not a vote tonight, it's more informational, so.
Right, you'll have to vote
Yeah.
on that, and
We have the date set, so.
and at the meeting that Ed would like to have, we can discuss more about what tax levy you want to levy.
Or any different information requests too, so.
Just as a refresher, we set levies to capture all of the projected growth into new construction within a specific time period, correct?
Yes, I do try to get it all, yes.
What are our options after that takes place? If we were to set a levy that could capture all of that, could we still then abate that difference at the end of the year back?
Okay, we're doing resolutions for abatement. You can abate and use some of your funds. Yes, you can abate that. You're doing resolutions next month to abate the alternate and to abate 600,000 of the bonds, but you're also restructuring this, and that's going to change too. So my recommendation is to take the levy. Your growth is 2.1%, and your growth throughout the district grows like that as well. In your consent agenda, I do know that you opened up 2 new positions for special ed aides. I mean, you could have family, you don't know what happens to you in the future. You could have a whole family move in that has high level of special education students that could cost you $100,000 a year to educate. You don't know what brings forth. That's would be my recommendation.
Are you asking too off the restructuring of the bonds? Can we abate back on that, Ed?
Asking what our options are after we levy.
Okay.
You can abate. It would have to come out of, because this money is not something that you don't get till May. This is our first payment will be May or June of this levy. And the abatement would be when they collect those tax monies. So you would have to do a resolution in December to abate any of this money.
So
Some-
it is doable.
Yes.
The couple things that I'd like to add, because I think it kind of ties into what Ed is asking there. I had met with Julia this week just to kind of ask some questions, a lot of what you're doing, just to kind of wrap my mind around it. In my view, as I look at it, in trying to stay as neutral as I can on any of the three options in its most simplest form, the first two options that I would look at it, that we would have the ability to do, is one of them, we could try to capture the new construction, but we don't try to capture any of that 2.1%. And so we leave that behind and basically just tap on the new construction so our levy stays the same. The other extreme of that would be what is in the proposal there, and we try to capture everything that is available to us, which is the CPI and everything. So you've got those two issues. The reason is, I would say, that the finance people don't like to not take to leave that money on the table, is that you can never go back and get it again. So it always keeps paying itself. You can't go back and get it. So to specifically answer your question, I don't think that you can levy it and then say, now I don't want to collect it, because that's part of what you're doing. You're capturing that amount of money and you don't. There is an option that I did reveal, and this is why I think it's important that we have that meeting coming up. You would have a possible third option to where you could levy that entire amount so that you capture it, but then you could basically take that piece and just apply and abate an equal part of your bond and interest payment that you would. So you actually, if we estimate it's going to be 2.4 million of a bond and interest payment, you take that amount down and you just use it over there. So the property tax owner gets a real relief, and the finance person may not be as happy, but at least they've protected that 2.1% of growth that they can't go back and get. And so I think that there's a real discussion that we can have, because that may go a little bit to what you were saying about we could abate some things. And the other thing that I would throw in here, so I think you have three options that we could study on. There may be more, but as I look at it, those are three. The other thing is there's that additional money that, and I'm going to potentially, that we're going to get from the state. When Julie and I talked this week, you know that there's still smoke and mirrors going on with the state, and probably until January is a best guess now is when that money may show up. But if you look at that amount with current projections, it's about $290,000. If that's a real number, and maybe they're giving you some here and taking some away there, but if our piece that we're trying to capture is about $220,000 is what the difference is if we take that 2.1%, then effectively we could keep everything neutral to the school district because of the extra state money coming in, and use that to offset what we didn't take. So I think there's a lot of ways, if you kind of think between now and then, that you have an option. But I'm very sensitive to what the speaker here said tonight. I think too often we get pushed in this thing about, you know, what's $15 an hour, what's $25 an hour. And you start looking at this, or you look, fortunately for Mr. Randall, he can work a job and try doing it. What about the retiree that's sitting out there? And that's the part to where I think we have allowed these to creep up. I agree, we have crumbling buildings, we have all this other stuff that is we have to weigh that against. I still, in the back of my mind, and we talked about it, I think you have a state that is yet to come to grips with what the pension crisis is and how they're coming up with this extra $300,000 or $290,000. Will it be there next year? But I just think that we're continuing. I don't know. I think what you guys did last month when I couldn't be here was the right thing to do with the descending piece. I think that protects us this year and future years. I don't disagree with that at all. But I do think that there are some options here that we can study and bring to either a special board meeting or that business meeting and really see what's best for the district and the taxpayers. So that would be my piece on it. So I guess to answer your question, what I would like to see brought to that business meeting by Julie is what those three options would be and what they would look like. We have the one in front of us. Well, really, the one in front of us tonight hopefully will be formal. Andy gets the bond sold, and so that one number gets modified. Then the second one would be if we just don't try to capture it or anything, and then the third would be capture it but abate that a whole amount and use it for bond and interest. Is that?
And then at that business services committee meeting, would we adjourn then and go to a special meeting and give Julie a directive to get it posted in time? Do we need to do that?
You're gonna have, are you just gonna have a business meeting or a special,
Well, we could probably do both at the same time.
what would you need the special purpose meeting for?
I think what Ed's asking is there something we officially have to post before we get to that meeting where the board has to agree to something? Or can they just, we get some direction or like a recommendation from that meeting, just bring that back
Right.
Well,
and post it in the paper?
You have
ahead of time?
you have to post the anticipated one.
By
The
the fifth.
posting is at 5%. We could bring this down below the 5%, and then I don't have to post it at all. You only have to post the notice of the property tax if it is more than 5%. Right now, it's at 5.16%. It doesn't, if I brought that down and took more money off of the,
We get under the 5%, we don't have to post anything.
correct, I do not have to put it in the paper. So, I can
So
do
really
that
the
to
other
get
thing
it to
too
the,
is
to that, and there's no
Direction,
posting.
yeah, okay.
And then you
give
can
everybody time to do
decide,
what they need to do.
decide that night what you want to bring to the budget hearing. You wouldn't
And-
need a special
Yeah.
board meeting.
And make sure we're compliant for voting in December.
And that budget meeting's in front of the December meeting.
The budget hearing is at the December meeting, yes. I can change this so we don't have to put it in the paper if it
What's our
doesn't-
drop dead date for posting in the paper? December,
Well, it has to be 1 week before the board meeting.
gotcha. Board meeting, I think.
No
is
more than 14 days
12.
prior and no less than 7.
The 27th will give us time.
Anything further on the levy? Then we'll just plan that business services committee meeting.
Do we need to ask Julie then to drop it below? Do you need a recommendation or request from us to do that, or is that?
Do you want me to bring it to the meeting at 4.99 or somewhere around there?
The way I understood it was, I think we were going to bring, we've already got the one copy of the full levy asking for everything. And we were bringing the two other options.
Right, I'll
The
bring the
one
two
where we
other.
didn't capture it all, and then the other one where we captured all and then looked for. some
Right,
sort of
but this
abatement.
one, the capturing everything, but keep it under the 5%. That's still capturing everything, it's just saying you're not going to put it in the, you don't have to put it in the paper because you're not asking for more than 5%. It's still good, because if I didn't ask, if you look in, I know you look confused, if you look on page number 6, go back to page number 6. The full levy amount there is 9,089 in the middle column, right after the black shaded. Then I increased it for the manual override to 9,320. That's what brought that to 5.16. I can manual override that, drop that down, it's below the 5%. If I just bring it to 9.25, it's going to bring it below the 5%, but still not taking anything away from the 9,089,000. And then you do not have to post a truth in taxation in the paper.
I just asked this question because I don't know what, in my own head, what the answer to that is, but would it necessarily be good practice to not post it anyway?
It's not required. I'm just saying it's not required. You can, but it's not required. So if you post it anyway, it wouldn't be, because it's not the 5%, I don't know if the 7 days, 14-day window is absolutely necessary.
But we still have time to treat it all
Mhm.
the same way anyway, right?
Yeah, if we post our worst case, we can always back off of that.
Right, you're just posting the worst case. You're
So,
not saying you're
I
doing
don't see a
it.
reason to not post this, because if we want to give them relief on the backside, great.
Why shouldn't we
Okay.
make that well known as well?
Mhm. So,
I'm just trying to work my way through this, so we're gonna plan on posting what was presented tonight with the updated bond numbers.
sure.
No, we'll
That's-
wait until after we have the meeting on the 27th.
Business
and
committee
decide
meeting.
what to post.
That's the way I understand.
Okay, but then that's where I get to the part. If we decide that we're gonna stay under the 5% and we know we don't have to post, then the entire board, even if they don't make the finance meeting, will be part of the decision at the next board meeting as to how we wanna go forward. If for some reason the finance committee sees something that may not have full board participation in it, the finance committee can't really, they would be binding something that we really haven't decided on tonight. So I would either try to do it so that the entire board can participate for the posting of it on what we want, or I would give direction to stay under 5% so we know the decision waits until the next board meeting. We can still discuss it at the finance, but then everybody gets to discuss it. If you gotta post it and you change the posting, then you're relying on the finance committee to make the call. And I don't know if you wanna do that.
That's kind of what I was asking.
That's
Maybe
what
I
I-
didn't
yeah.
ask it in the right way, but
So,
I think, once again, if we post this, it can't hurt us any, from what I see. If we do
Right.
decide to backtrack from it, we can. So,
Right.
I mean, if we just post this,
It's a worst-case scenario.
but then if we decide we want to take option B or C like you were talking about, we can. This doesn't bind us to anything. This is just saying we can't go above this. This is the most we could ever do. And so to post this, like I said, it's just saying this is a worst case scenario. But we're not tied to this. We can go underneath it any way we want. So we could still,
You will go underneath it, no matter what,
Right.
because we won't get that much.
right, so,
I guess I would check with maybe a lawyer on that, because it seems to me if there's the whole thing with 5% is it triggers the thing to do the posting and triggers the public hearing at the next board meeting. It triggers both of those items.
I've always recommended a public hearing regardless. Even though you don't have to have one, if you're under the 5%, you don't have to have the public hearing. Right, you're absolutely right on that. It triggers the posting and it triggers a budget hearing. But I would always recommend a budget hearing for the public to,
the thing I worry about with posting this now, and that's isn't what we're gonna use, is that there's a perception that this is what we're gonna, we're just a public body, we're just gonna take all the money we can get, regardless. And that kind of seems to me to circumvent what the truth of taxation statute is supposed to mean. What you're gonna post is what you plan on trying to capture. So that's my struggle. When I ask that question out loud, I don't really know that I know what, in my head, what that right answer should be.
well, but I think kind of what you said earlier is like, if we don't post, people will probably assume we're going to do the status quo. At least, if I
No,
wasn't
get
here.
that.
And so if we do post this,
That was why I was asking the question, is if we still had time to post our intentions after the business services meeting. And I thought we did, I thought we still had plenty of time to do that, don't we?
you do.
but like Tom was saying, if by chance there's only 3 people at the Business Services Committee,
You don't have a full board. You almost pointed a direction, almost, out of there.
that's,
I do understand that we'd be pushing to have at least one.
Okay.
You gonna be able to be there? You're gonna be there. Yeah.
Well, it sounded like most of us were gonna be there or planning on being there, so.
I hope so.
Except Tom.
That's the date we did.
No, the 27th.
27th, 27th, 6:30,
Okay. Okay.
plan on it.
all right. So, We decided no posting until after that meeting, right? All right, as long as we're all in agreement on that, good. All right, we'll move on to item D, salary decisions and board calendar.
Yeah, this was a item that Joe asked had placed on the agenda. Kind of was relying on Joe to lead it off and direct where he was wanting to go with it. So if somebody knows where Joe wants to go and you guys want to discuss it, otherwise, be more than happy to just push this back into December and have it another agenda item.
Was it just his intent to try and get it on the calendar in front of the legal dates?
I think so. I'm not sure, but,
You can just make that happen, right?
oh, very easily, yeah. Because the calendar is kind of a guideline of what to expect and what to do.
So that would put it on February. In front of the March 1st deadline, right?
Well, the March 1st is usually the rehiring of certified. Usually our district's trend and what we've usually done is those salary decisions for the non-bargaining groups, typically in May, April's and May's. You use March for hiring decisions and RIFs. For certified, April is non-certified. April and May usually starts, you got a better idea of how the state's budget's forming out too.
Let's always have those discussions in February to start.
Do we want to just go ahead and put it there? Do you want me to bring this back in December for Joe? Bring it back in
I'm
December?
gonna bring it back in December for Joe,
Okay.
so he can have his input on this.
Okay, so then we're moving on to item 11, executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public open session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Is there any further business to come before the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Have a good evening. All right, so we have all that. That's good. Now you're going in on Friday? Thursday you're going in?